There's no need at this point to overextend yourselves, especially since the team has bigger goals this season. It's not about being fresh in spring training. It's not about even starting the season off great, although that's a very small goal we all have for the Phillies. Don't start off with a slump and in a hole, and now you're chasing the Braves the entire season. Start off much better. But overall, it's such a long season, you want to make sure you're not overextending yourself. So Rob Thompson mentioning something that we already know. Of course, we understand, and we've already heard the complaints about the playoffs that come out of Atlanta because it's so hard being, someone that has a bye in the first round.
Look, this is a safe space, right? Everybody in the chat, you got my back. We're not going to go tell Atlanta sports market because I've already been hated down there once before. I'm gonna whisper this, Renee, because this is something I actually do believe. Brian Snitker's right. I fully believe taking 5 days off is not an advantage. And look, it sucks. A 3-game series, anything can happen. Kyle Schwarber talked about it yesterday with the camera and Richie and said, yeah, we want to win the division because anything can happen in a 3-game wild card. But I think you've seen it. It's not an excuse. I think it's reality. Baseball players are such creatures of habit and routine. And when you take away that stadium atmosphere, you can play as many simulated games as you want. That doesn't simulate adrenaline. That doesn't give you the rush of playoff baseball. I think shutting down for 4 or 5 days is a disadvantage. I think Brian Snitker is right. Now, this isn't to say I want the Phillies to go out and not win the division because I would take them winning the division. But I do think it's a disadvantage because usually the team that is coming off that 3-game wild card series, has a little bit of momentum, and it's momentum meeting a stopped force. And it's just I think Snitker's right. I know people want to roast him a little bit, but I've believed that since last year. I mentioned it in the playoffs. I think it's a disadvantage to shut down and lose that routine and game atmosphere and all of it. So I want the Phillies to win the division because it guarantees home playoff games. Right. And the Phillies have the best record in baseball with home playoff record in modern baseball. So you want to guarantee yourself some home playoff games, but I completely understand where Snitker's coming from. I think it sucks to not play. I don't think it's the advantage that they envisioned it being. Yes, you get to get your pitchers in order. You get to give some guys some rest, but you lose. These guys play 6 days a week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, earlier, if you guys missed it earlier this month, Braves manager Brian Snitker did mention on Foul Territory show because the Braves have been eliminated the last 2 seasons in the playoffs by the Phillies, Renee? Of course by the Phillies. No. And he's not happy about it. And he actually was saying, it's one thing for the All-Star break because everybody has off. So everybody's dealing with that same reset of having off. But come playoff time, you're now giving guys off when the rest of the, your opponents are still playing. And he was saying, when you haven't had, 5 days of actual game playing, it's tough to get back going. And so he's saying, we had a team that set all these records and everything offensively, and we didn't hit much in the postseason. I don't think it's approach. I think it's a system, quite honestly. So he's blaming the shortcomings in the postseason on the format. And what I actually recognize that just happened, it's not just baseball, because I was involved, as you know, with the A10 championships, and they have a format where the top 4 seeds get a double bye. And 7 out of 8 teams that had a double bye lost in the quarterfinals. Their very first game back, they lost. I mean, it's hard for athletes to have routine, and then you just stop. Now you have your opponents who are getting this momentum. It's exciting. You're winning playoff games. You're celebrating in the locker room, in the clubhouse. You're rolling, and then you're ready to go. Versus the other team that's great, we clinched the division, got that number 1 spot. But now we're done. And now you go from everything being ramped up. You play baseball every single day, and then all of a sudden you're just done. Yeah. And you're not playing for a week. I think
it's kind of Snitker is making an excuse while not making an excuse. I don't think you want to hear your manager cry about it.
Because it's a thing that
but I think there's truth to
it. Win. Yeah, you strive to win your division, to be able to have off, get healthy, you do your simulated games, you work through the routine. To me, that's where, as a manager, you got to figure out how to best emulate what that routine is like. I know they try with the simulated games. It's not going to be the same, but it's also something that's hard to complain about. You crush all these offensive records and are fantastic to the regular season, and back-to-back seasons fall short to the Phillies. That's not the league's not going to change because you guys aren't doing well. When there are teams, and I know I saw in the chat, like K-Red saying like it's, a double, something like it's doable. There are teams that have been given that number one spot, get the buys and come out and they win. So it's not something that's going to change, I don't think, but it is a weird system.
Yeah. And hypothetical, man, I completely agree. Fuck the Braves. But I don't feel any ounce of sadness or pity for them. I'm just talking about from the formatics of the baseball thing. I just don't think, yes, you get to set up your rotation, but like,
because on the reverse side of it, let's say you are you have to play in the wild card round. You have to play. Now your guys are more tired. They didn't get time off. Like there's always an argument on either side when you lose. Let's just call it what it is. If the Braves were to come out and win and not get knocked off by the Phillies in the last 2 seasons, they're not having these complaints. But because they lost, it's easy to point the finger at, oh, the reason why we lost and why our hitting was suddenly bad was because of the bye. And sure, that could be a reason, but we don't take excuses here. We don't factor in these excuses. All we focus on are results.